For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Atwell's Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you a bit of a kind of camping sort of tutorial video about how you're going to pitch the Vango Beta tent range. So whether it be a 350, 450 or 550 XL, you're still going to do it in the same manner. So what we're going to do to start with is we're going to grab the tent out, take it out of its bag, spread it out and kind of then go from there really. So Beta's probably been one of the longest running models in Vango's collection for a while. It's brilliant because it offers a great level of specification with enough amount of space in the porch section without being too expensive. So it works really quite nicely. Fiberglass poles, so again, nice and compact. We've got a separate video giving you a bit more of an in-depth kind of tutorial to it. But for the content of this video is more about how you're going to pitch the tent itself. So we'll kind of run through that. So like I said, we're just going to spread it open. Position it kind of as and where we want it to go. So what I'm going to start by doing is basically pegging the back section. Now it's worth mentioning this has been pitched once before, so the inner is pre-attached. Sometimes when you first get it, the inner is additional, but what we're going to do is look for the kind of orange webbing straps. So that's going to be the first point of call we're going to peg. Now ideally when you peg, you want to go into about a 45-degree angle directly into it, making it quite nice and easy. Directly peg against the back part as well, just to get attention. Now we are pegging this in almost like a perfect kind of rectangle. So again, we look for the pegging points located on the front. Got those webbing straps again, pulling it directly out and trying to keep us somewhat of a kind of a straight line. The front one's a little bit wayward, so we're going to go dead straight line really. If we go for our, say, a box, so back two corners, front two corners before it starts to kind of dart in a little bit here. So again we're going to kind of peg, pulling out against that section. And the front, typically this does take a little bit of tinkering and tailoring to get it just right. I'd always make a point of actually spreading or the webbing points, put them out as far as they go, just that way you got the ability to tension it as you kind of carry on forward. So we're now pegged it securely down, so this gives us the benefit that when we come to, if it's windy or anything like that, we haven't got to worry about chasing around trying to get hold of the tent. Now what you find is there's 3 poles in total. One of the poles is going to be slightly different size to the others. That's where you've got a little grey section. The poles you can kind of feed fully through the sleeve. On the actual tab of the sleeve will be a little marker. So what you'll see is the back pole will be grey, and in the middle and the front pole are solidly black. So what I like to do is just feed that directly through the pole sleeve, and what I ideally do is push the pole almost halfway through, so you've got half the pole on that side, half pole that side, outside of the actual fly sheet itself. Again, we'll do the same with the front. I recommend basically feeding the pole through first, because it's much easier to do so when it's actually flat on the ground, rather than there's a slight arc to it. Trust me, once you do it once that way, you certainly learn about it. As you feed the poles through, you just want to make sure you're not catching it at any points. It just runs through nice and smoothly, without skewering the dog. And by all means, what we then do is the last pole. Thank you, Arch. Doesn't really matter, so which order you do it in, as long as you sort of feed them all through, then you're good to go. Because we've pegged it down, we've got our shape, we've got our position on the pitch. Now what you will find is there will be one end which basically has a webbing strap to tinker and tailor it. So what I'm going to now do is put the ring, basically you've got a ring and pin, so a pin that basically goes in the base of the pole itself. So we're going to put the base, I personally will start directly in the middle, do that pole first. If you really wanted to, you can put all the bases in as well. What you often find is when you do one, the others kind of full out, so you sort of mess around a little bit on that front. So I'll put the ringing pin on the other side. I want to push very gradually against it. Try and lift it with one hand, try and bear some of the weight of the fabric, and just almost I'm just pulling it back on itself. We're just slowly and gradually pulling back, making sure none of the metal ferrules are catching. You can kind of dig it into the ground as well. What you find, it actually gives you a bit more of an option to sort of steer it in. Just making it like so you haven't got to be forcing the pole through. You're literally just pulling it up, bring it in with your foot, and gradually going through. That's a great little way of just taking the strain out of it. And then the last little bit is obviously to get that pole straight in the bottom, and then we'll just kind of clip that pole onto it. So we've done the central part now. We'll do the back. So this is where really having the pole halfway either side makes life a little bit easier. We can flex that into the point. Go on, we'll do 2 for 1 as we're around this side. Same premise, we'll basically just very carefully bring that pole in on itself, pop that pin directly in the bottom, and then clip it on. And last but not least, that last pole. The thing always is the struggle is getting that ring directly in the bottom. So one thing you can do with this, if need be, just unpeg it a little bit. You can repeg it afterwards. The crucial thing really with it is to almost kind of pull too much fabric back on itself. So we're good to go. We're nice and we're pegged in. Well, before we do anything else, we'll make sure that the doors are fully zipped up. That way we're not overstretching any of the fabric when we kind of do the guy ropes. Now, it doesn't really matter if you do front to back or back to front. Personally, I quite like doing kind of the back first. At this point here, you can have a look and see if actually anything needs kind of re-pegging, just to make sure we're kind of dead straight. I think on the whole, we're good to go. I personally like to put probably the guy ropes out as far as they go. The only reason I say that is mainly because it then gives you the ability to tension them later on. They will slacken off over time, so that's a bit of a given really. And like I said, because I do the back, we then sort of know where we are and we can sort of make sure we're even on either side. It's worth mentioning as well is I would probably recommend, if you have the ability to, it's almost not a bad thing to carry some extra pegs with you, just because sometimes the pegs that get supplied with the actual tent aren't always the best. Now, when we're guying, what we want to make sure we're doing is not actually kind of pulling the side out too much. The whole idea with the guy ropes is to kind of retain the profile of the tent rather than distorting it like that, you see. So we're looking for just quite nice and gently keeping the shape, ideally going with the pole sleeve itself. So you want to kind of go out directly down. With this one, because you've got a bit more of a wind coming around the side, I will probably take this out just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more flex. And we've got the front one as well. Again, you don't want to over tension this, because what you can sometimes find if you go too short, too down, it forces it down. Really, ideally, you want to come directly out. We will tinker with these in a second. And then we'll just work our way through. If it's really windy weather, I would recommend is pegging through the loops down the bottom, just to kind of get bouts and braces. These might need a little bit of play here and there. And Last but no means least, we'll peg this bad boy. Cool, so we're nicely pitched. We'll just tension that off a little bit more, just making sure we're dead square. Nice and simple, we're pitched, ready to go, nice and strong. But yeah, so that's really kind of how you go through the beta. Like I said, it doesn't really make a difference whether you have the 350, the 450 or the 550. The premise is the same kind of pole system, same sort of pitching. The bedroom, like I say, is pre-clipped in at the moment, but you could do this, then clip the bedroom in afterwards once you get it from new, if they do come separately. But what we'll do is now we'll move on to packing it away. If you want more information about the product itself, you can check the link below this video. Alternatively, if you want more in-depth detail about it, we've done a separate video review on that as well. But let's move on to packing it away. So packing away, we do the same thing basically in reverse. So we'll leave the main kind of 4 pegging points in the main corners pegged in, and then just basically unpeg it from there. So we'll start with removing, obviously, the garret pegs. Personally, I'll probably go at this point, use the unclip as you work your way around, just to work out a little bit more efficient, doing it like that. So we're just going to work our way around nice and easily, unclip. Again, something really with a second pair of hands makes life a little bit easier is when it comes to folding. Apart from that, as you will see from this video, it can be done by one person quite happily. It just sometimes is, it's more just for the folding element of it itself. And perfect. So we've done all the garrots. The only thing we've left pretty much is the back 2 and then the front 2 corners itself. Now, what I'd recommend doing is opening the door. The only reason I say this is open it to about a third open, just so any internal air can happily escape. We want to basically take the poles out from the back towards the front. I'd always recommend when you undo any of the straps or anything like that, basically extend it just to make it easier when you come to pitch it the other time, that you haven't got to worry about it. Now we want to carefully feed the pole directly through. You never really want to pull the pole directly out, because what you find is actually you'll just pull out the sections. If you give a little bit of flex to it once you've got it sort of halfway, it will kind of come out kind of smoothly. And then we can put that directly back into the bag. Thank you for that. Same idea, just going to bring that out. I always like to just give a little bit of a pat down on the top, just to kind of help feed that extra section out. If sometimes you need to just lay it on the floor, so we're just going to feed that through. I always pull the fabric towards myself, just then, because crucial thing is getting it kind of halfway. Once you're over that halfway point, you haven't got across, basically it's not at its peak, so it's much easier just to gradually just kind of slide it out under a bit of tension. Back in the bag it goes. The poles itself are coming quite, be very handy to use as a sizing guide a bit later on, when we come to basically do the folding, so it gives us a bit of an orientation of how wide we need to fold it to get into the bag. Right, so because we fold it we take it down from the back towards the front, what we find is now all of the internal air has been forced forward towards the open door that we've opened up. Perfect, so now we've got our folding guide. Depending on which way the wind's coming, we either want to fold it kind of from left to right or right to left. For this, because the wind is coming kind of in that direction, we're going to let it help us in terms of fold over this corner towards this open door. As previously mentioned, we're looking at about a bag shape width, so if you use the poles as a folding guide, That'll give you a good indication of how wide it needs to be. Personally, I'm always a bit of an advocate of going a bit smaller than you think, just because if you go too big, well, you got no chance really. So you can always refold it or tuck it in a little bit. Again, fold it. You're almost going into, in many ways, kind of into thirds. We'll fold that edge back in as well. If you want, it's not a bad idea just to give it a quick kind of pat down along the length of it, just as that means any sort of extra internal air is being forced kind of forward. Now, what I want to do is put the bag directly at the front. So we're laying the very end of it directly into the bag itself. The reason being is because when we come to fold it and roll it, it means that when we finish, we're already in the bag ready to go. We're going to use the poles as a point to really kind of hold and get a firm grip. The key thing is to get a really tight start to the roll. The reason I say that is because it just obviously naturally gets bigger and bigger. If you start with kind of a very loose fold, typically you find by you get to the end, it's all very baggy and not as kind of compressed and concise as you kind of want it to be. And then we're just going to roll it all the way through. So again, we have got a bit shorter, but it doesn't make a difference because we've given ourselves a nice tight roll back into the bag. And we're good to go. Bob's your animal, Uncle Fanny's your out. So nice, simple, very easy to put up and down. Like I said, for more information, you can check the link below this video. It'll take you through to our website. We've got more information on the full range of each size, different features of each model, as well as the floor plans of the 350XL, the 450XL, the 500XL. So lots to choose from there. We've also got our individual pricing, specification, and everything you need to know there. But hopefully it's been helpful. For more information, like I said, check the link below. Feel free to let us know what you think of it as well by commenting in the box below. But in all, that's how you go pitch and pack your brand new Vango Beta. Hopefully we'll see you again soon in our next Outdoors tutorial reviews.